That's one of the best pieces of advice anyone ever gave me about trading was that it should be boring. And I find that I find the best opportunities when I'm not expecting to trade, you know, when I'm not expecting an opportunity and then I see it and I know it. And that comes a lot with just experience and screen time, but those opportunities don't happen all the time and you can't expect it. It's going to be boring. You got to sit and then just expect nothing. And then all of a sudden, when you see it, it becomes very clear what you should do, as far as, hey, this is low risk. Now's the time to enter a trade.
Welcome everybody to another funded trader of TradethePool. Today, a new funded trader, Damon is with me, trading $200,000 of the buying power that we offer on the Flex account. Thanks for coming, Damon.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Alrighty, appreciate the time. And Damon, let's dive right to it, right? You passed the evaluation, the funded $200,000 buying power. I know that you're mostly trading the Qs or the TQQQs, right? The leverage. Is that something that you did from the get-go, from the day you started trading?
No, I mean, I've experimented, I guess, with a little bit of everything. And I mean, that's been good for me to kind of figure out what works for me, at least as far as what I can get a feel for. But I really prefer to trade highly liquid stocks. I mostly focus on big tech like Tesla, or if I'm going to trade, I often watch the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, and so I'll trade different instruments based on those. But I want to be highly liquid so that I don't get burned by the spread. So I focus mostly on Tesla though, just because it moves good and it's always very liquid, and so there's good potential reward. I want to trade things that have a big potential reward, and obviously controlling the risk is key. It's been tough for me to figure this out, and I've learned that it's really more. I've been watching the markets and trying to learn this for about 5 years. And I feel like I've learned everything I need to as far as strategies and what I can trade and, different tools that I can use for trading. I mean, I just experimented with everything. But what's really been key to help me improve is more the psychology part of trading, understanding risk versus reward. And people ask what I do with this, and I tell them, well, I'm a risk analyst. Really, that's like the most important thing I do is analyze risk and try to minimize risk. And if I can do that well, then the rewards kind of come. I mean, there's a whole psychology around the reward side of it too, but it's mostly about finding opportunities for small risk. And then if you can do that well, then the reward side just comes. And so, recently I've had a little more success with that.
Amazing. And we'll talk about, your success story up until today in a second. That's a nicer name to a trader, a risk analyst, right? It sounds much better than just a trader.
Well, there's kind of a negative connotation with a trader, and so I try to focus on what the good things about trading and the things you can learn from trading as well.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned that you're looking for liquid stocks, right? Stocks that have enough liquidity, in order to get in and out. Although on Tesla, you will see a wider spread, right, comparing to others. Is that something?
Sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, at least at the opening bell. Is that something that you're aiming for? Is that the strategy? You're looking for playing with the spread, or
No, 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 no. Well, I actually have to be careful of that. I mean, sometimes I do get into a trade. I have to be watching the spread. I don't want there to be super volatility like there is right when the bell opens.
Hmm.
And so, and some days are worse than others. But yeah, I think it's important. I think it's important to minimize the spread, minimize that volatility so that you're not, because Tesla can move very fast, way too much too fast, and if you go too big a size then it'll kill you. You'll be down a lot way too fast, and I've made that mistake plenty of times. So I try to give it a little time to play out. And that's, when I talk about psychology, how that's helped me, patience is such a, I mean, it's such a simple thing. Oh, you need patience to be a good trader, but it's
Right.
really starting to sink in. Like, I need a lot more patience than I thought I did. And I need to just sit and observe and see what is happening. And ultimately, the way that I trade, my own kind of strategy is to observe what is happening until I'm pretty sure, and I get some clarity about what is happening. And then I just try and join that. I'm not trying to beat the market, but I'm trying to join it. And
Mm.
so I need to see what is happening and then look for a low risk opportunity to join it.
Yeah.
And essentially, that's always what I'm trying to do. And where I get into trouble is when I don't have enough patience and I'm trying to guess at what's happening instead of actually seeing what's happening. Because most of the time I look and I'm not really sure how to interpret what I'm seeing. But if I have the right psychology and I'm just patient and I'm observing, and then I wait until I get great clarity about, okay, this is an opportunity of low risk. Now's when I can enter and I'm not going to take a big loss. And so I just try to get to those points of clarity and opportunity, through having plenty of patience. And that patience is so hard.
100%. And my wife is following on Instagram one of the neuroscientists, right? And he talks about how to implement in different ways to a child, how to implement patience to a child, right? And just the other day, she sent it to me, and he's been talking about you need to become boring from time to time, like bored from time
Oh,
to time, right? So, for example, he said instead of when you drive in, instead of putting the music on or screens or whatever it is, let your child be bored for a while, and then he will automatically will start developing that patience. So that's very interesting what you're saying, and maybe it could work also on us, as adults.
well, it's funny that you bring that up because that's one of the best pieces of advice anyone ever gave me about trading, was that it should be boring.
Mm,
And I find that I find the best opportunities when I'm not expecting to trade.
yeah,
When I'm not expecting an opportunity, and then I see it, and I know it. And that comes a lot with just experience and screen time, but those opportunities don't happen all the time, and you can't expect it. It's going to be boring. You got to sit and then just expect nothing, and then all of a sudden when you see it, it becomes very clear what you should do, as far as, hey, this is low risk, now's the time to enter a trade. And so, I mean, I have a lot of setups and journaling, and I've done all of those things that traders should do. But honestly, I kind of learned what I needed to there quite a while ago, I feel like. And it's more about just patience and discipline of waiting and accepting the boring
yeah.
until it becomes clear. And then that's, yeah, because if it's not boring, then you start to get emotional, and then emotions just wreck it.
100%. I totally agree with everything you just mentioned, and I see it sometimes, even till this day. I see it on my trading. I gotta be patient, and when you're waiting enough, you will finally see that moment that you say, okay, that's the moment, right? When you say, that's it. I need to click the mouse key and get into that position. That's the right trade to take, for sure. All righty, let's dive a little bit more in. I'm watching, I'm looking on my side. I have the back office, right? The admin side, and I'm watching all of your accounts. You had you had some, you had a few of those, right?
I've had a lot of failures, and I've just, for me, it's just been, I kind of know that I'm going to get there. I'm going to get to where I need to be as a trader. And so I kind of decided that I'm going to keep trying this. I'm just going to keep going until I reach the point of becoming who I need to be as a trader. And yeah, I think persistence, that's one thing I've heard from really successful traders is that most of them say if you just can endure and keep going until you've figured it out,
Yeah.
then you'll get there. And so that's kind of been pushing me in the back of my mind because it's taken a lot longer than I thought it would to get to where I can start to consistently make profits.
I understand that, and this is definitely something that I see on other funded traders that did make it. Not all of them made it on the first attempt, or not even the third attempt. Sometimes there are traders, and great traders really, still with us till this day, making money, that passed on the 11th time, right? Or even the 15th time, or even more. And it's incredible to see the ones that are sticking into that and continue to, just continue to battle this until they actually winning. That's incredible to see. Those traders are meant to be great.
Well, and honestly, that's one of the things I really like about Trade the Pool because it really lowers the risk. I know what the risk is. Yeah, like I say, I'm a risk analyst. Well, using Trade the Pool, I know what my risk is. It's what I paid for the account, and that's as much as I can lose. And I see a lot of those successful traders who say, I lost so much money in the beginning. Like some of
Yeah.
them lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so I feel like I can really minimize my risk by using Trade the Pool because the reward side is so good that to me, I feel like I'm going to keep trying this because I know what the risk is. I know how much money I'm putting into it. I know what the potential reward is. So when I get there, I can overcome the initial costs quite easily.
Yeah.
And I mean, relatively easily once you get to that point of making consistent profits.
Yeah, and I always talk about it. Even if you failed 20 times, right, and paid 500 on average, right, it's still worth it to take the same money, and instead of put it in a broker account, to put it through the test, through the evaluation, because once you pass the evaluation, you're trading with a much bigger account than what you can actually achieve on your broker account. So that's a no-brainer still this
Yeah.
day.
Well, and it's a win-win. I love it because it's a win for you and me. Like if I know that you want me to trade well because it'll be good for you and it'll be good for me, and I just love that about this.
It's amazing. Then I'm going to share my dashboard and show the guys at home how it looks like. So for those of you not familiar, every trader gets his own dashboard. The dashboard will show you your stats, the risk parameters, and you can really understand your progress and look at your equity curve. You can also check your achievements and payouts and customize your view, switch between light mode and dark mode. So this is how it looks like when you enter in your hub. Basically, every trader gets his own hub, and you can see, of course, the certificate. So you had one that you passed in December, literally almost a year, December 24th. One of the accounts that you passed, actually, I think it's the mini buying power. It's a
Yeah.
very
So
old
I
one.
I started there.
Yeah, so a long time ago, and now on November 7/25, you passed the one with the $200,000 of buying power, and that's really amazing achievement. I'm gonna go into the dashboard, the one that you passed. Let's grab that. Okay, and this is it. So you traded the $200,000 buying power. You had a 6% target. That's it, and a 4% max loss. So for those of you not familiar, you need to stay within risk parameters. If you reach the target, didn't blow the account, then you're good to go. You add interesting. Let's talk a little bit about that because it's an interesting chart here, the balance chart. You had a lot of back and forth, a lot of sideways, and then you found your rhythm. We'll talk about
Yeah.
that in a second. Success rate 30%, but the risk reward is incredible, 4.7. Tell us a little bit about those numbers in the chart here.
I really like using that chart while I'm trading. I mean, kind of when I'm journaling and looking at how I've been doing, because in that chart, I should see big moves up and small moves down. That's kind of what I'm looking for to see. And if I'm not seeing big moves up and small moves down, then it means I'm taking too big of losses. So essentially, when I'm trading, I try to. And one thing that helped me, if you look at that chart of the last part there, I really started to get my rhythm, like you said.
Yeah,
I made a change in my trading that seemed to help me a lot to make my losses. If I did have losses, I kept them very small,
yeah,
and if I had wins, they kind of compounded bigger wins towards the end. And so what I'd been doing is entering my trades like a quarter size. When I first enter, I just enter like a quarter size. So if I lose, it's just a quarter loss. It's a small loss.
yeah,
But what I was doing, and so I've learned a lot about what not to do as a trader because I've been in those situations where you're on tilt, where you're making just terrible decisions. Essentially, I try to do the opposite of that. And I realize, like, when you're trading really poorly and you're making bad decisions, you'll add to a loser. You're staying a loser way too long. And so I think, well, when I enter a trade, if it starts to go for me and it starts to work, I should add to the winners. And so I look for opportunities to add to my winner. Um, and then I can raise my stop to break even. And that way I'm really minimizing my losses and compounding my gains. And so that's a little tricky because you have to see opportunities to add and not add too soon so that you stop out at break even. But the last couple of days where I really started to make some good gains was using that strategy of add to the winner at just the right time, and I kind of scalped that into my target. And so I hugely increase my size as I go into my target, and then I really compound my gains without any risk, with minimal risk,
yeah.
because I'm just risking what I've already gained on that trade. And so
Nice.
it does increase the likelihood of stopping out at break even, but that's worth the risk to potentially make big gains.
I love it. That's definitely a key element to add into anyone who trades. At the end of the day, you want to add to your position. First of all, you want to start smaller than the full size, because once you do that, you automatically give yourself more chances, right? It's like having one bullet in the magazine or 15. Obviously, you want to have, even a sniper, a great sniper, want to have at least 5 or 6 in his magazine. So it's the same thing, the same concept. You want to give yourself more chances to win on that trade. And if you're taking it all with one bullet, one shot, then in most cases, it won't work to your favor. So what you did there, just starting with a quarter, it's amazing. Adding to your position when it goes to your favor, amazing as well. And like you said, you were risking what you already gained. So that's perfect, really. I appreciate that you just shared everything right now. I'm sure the guys that will listen to it will have a lot of, just those moments that will change their mind or change their perspective about trading. Very
Yeah,
good.
and I don't want to overstate how good I am as a trader. I think that's when you really get into troubles, when you think, "Oh, I'm so good at this."
It's
Then
always
you
like,
get humbled. And so it's important to stay humble and just learn
yeah,
and, and learn from your mistakes and learn from others' successes and mistakes and
yeah, for
um,
sure.
long process of learning. But I love trading. I mean, I just love everything about it. And even though it gets boring and I need to accept the boring, it's the potential is amazing.
Yeah, and like you said, you gotta have passion to the game, right? You gotta love the game in order to actually continue and push yourself to improve, to watch the charts, to trade, all of those things, because obviously it's not an easy task, especially at the beginning of the career, but also after that as well. You gotta stay every time, stay ahead of the game. So only when you really love what you're doing, you actually continue to improve. Amazing. Damon, I want to thank you so much for coming to the interview and doing this. Like I said, I'm sure the guys that listen will get a lot from it. And for those of you who want to check us out and join Trade the Pool, just go to tradethepool.com and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks so much, Damon.
Thank you.